그래, 그럼 많이 먹어.
근데 왜 거짓말을 해요? 그럼 소고기가 아니면 무슨 고기예요?
나도 네 표정이 어떨지 궁금해 죽겠어.
An old husband and young wife, a story full of secrets, a deranged plastic surgeon, his unfaithful and stunningly beautiful young wife, and a tale of betrayal that spirals into a brutal revenge. Choi In-beom, a wealthy but aging plastic surgeon with failing health, runs a successful clinic. His money secured him a gorgeous young wife, Seung-jong, but their life together is far from the picture-perfect fantasy. Though Choi can provide for Seung-jong's every material desire, he falls short in physical intimacy. Frustrated, Seung-jong begins a steamy affair with the muscular and energetic fitness trainer, Coach Jin. Choi In-beom, while wealthy, isn't oblivious. He notices Seung-jong's growing coldness and suspects infidelity, though he has no proof. In front of Choi, Seung-jong plays the role of the perfect wife, but behind his back, she sneers at him, calling him a useless old man. One morning, after Seung-jong sent Choi In-beom off to work, she called Coach Jin over to her house. What she didn't know was that Choi, suspicious of her behavior, had decided to double back, pretending to leave but returning soon after. Clinging to a sliver of hope, Choi was determined to find the truth. That hope shattered when he heard the unmistakable sounds of Seung-jong's moans coming from the bedroom. Standing at the door, he witnessed a sight that stabbed him straight through the heart. Fuming with rage, Choi clenched his fists, but instead of storming in to confront them, he quietly reached for a small hammer from his toolbox. Just as he was about to exact judgment, the doorbell rang. Fearing he might blow his cover, Choi slipped out the back door and hid in his car. At the front door stood Seung-jong's mother, relieved. Seung-jong quickly told Coach Jin to get dressed and leave through the back door. As Choi's mother entered the house, she caught a glimpse of Coach Jin's retreating figure. Suspicious, she asked Seung-jong who the man was. Playing innocent, Seung-jong insisted, "There's no one else here. You must be seeing things." But Choi's mother wasn't so easily fooled. She accused Seung-jong of being unfaithful, pointing out how lucky she was to have someone as kind as Choi In-beom. Unbothered, Seung-jong dismissed her, telling her to mind her own business and stay out of her life. Realizing she couldn't control her daughter, Choi's mother chose to turn a blind eye. After all, what truly angered her wasn't the betrayal itself, but the fear of public humiliation if the affair were discovered.
그 새를 못 참아서 꼭 지랄 같은 것만 날 닮아가지고. 에휴.
For now, as long as Choi remained in the dark, she could continue enjoying the luxurious life her daughter's marriage afforded her. As soon as Coach Jin stepped out of the house, Choi In-beom started his car and began tailing him. From the parking garage to the elevator, Choi followed closely, his anger boiling over as the red lipstick mark on Coach Jin's neck mocked him. Just as Choi was about to strike, the elevator stopped on the 9th floor. It turned out this was where Coach Jin's gym was located. The bustling gym, crowded with people, wasn't the place for confrontation. Swallowing his rage, Choi decided to bide his time. Later, Choi arrived at his clinic as if nothing had happened, preparing to perform a double eyelid surgery. But as he held the scalpel, the head nurse quickly pulled him aside. Concerned, "Doctor, are you okay? You don't seem yourself today. Besides, a scalpel isn't needed for this procedure." Irritated, Choi snapped, "Do I need you to teach me how to do my job?" The nurse backed off, but her unease only deepened. Her fears were confirmed moments later. As Choi prepared to operate, he hallucinated, seeing the patient as Seung-jong.
이 자식 이제 손까지 따시네.
Consumed by fury, he lunged, choking the woman. It took several nurses to pull him off. The patient's husband, upon hearing what happened, stormed into the clinic and beat Choi up. Yet, Choi said nothing about the incident afterward, as if he'd erased it from his memory. Clearly, Seung-jong's betrayal had driven him to madness. Not long after, Choi discovered that his mother-in-law had met with Coach Jin. This meant she not only knew about the affair but was helping Seung-jong hide it from him. With that realization, Choi added her to his mental list of targets. One day, Choi paid a surprise visit to his mother-in-law. She was startled but decided to use the opportunity to gauge his suspicions. Both played their parts. She, under the guise of concern, pried for information, while Choi maintained a facade of happiness, insisting he and Seung-jong were doing great. Then, Choi opened his briefcase, revealing a set of syringes and vials. "I've prepared a special gift for you," he said with a smile. This is a new formula from my clinic, excellent for reducing signs of aging. Flattered. His mother-in-law lay back on the sofa, thrilled by his thoughtfulness. She had no idea she was a lamb walking to the slaughter. The syringe was filled, but its target wasn't her skin. With precision and cold determination, Choi drove the needle straight into her eyeball. She struggled briefly before falling silent, lifeless. When Choi In-beom returned home, Seung-jan greeted him warmly at the door. He tossed her a bag of meat and said casually, "We're having barbecue tonight." The scene cut to Seung-jan's mother's house, where her lifeless body lay on the floor. Blood pooled not only around her head but also from her lower body, evidence that Choi had done far more before leaving. At the dinner table, Choi In-beom asked, "What did you do at home today? Did you meet anyone?" "No," Seung-jan replied with a smile, gesturing to the grill. He added, "The meat's ready, give it a try." Seung-jan picked up a large piece and ate it. Choi suddenly grinned and asked, "Tastes good, doesn't it?" Puzzled, Seung-jan asked, "What kind of meat is this?" "It's delicious but unlike anything I'd had before," Choi In-beom calmly responded to her.
나도 네 표정이 어떨지 궁금해 죽겠어. 그럼 가르쳐 줄까? 이 고기가 뭔지?
At first, Seung-jan thought he was joking and laughed it off. Then, Choi In-beom pulled a severed ear out of his pocket. The ruby earring on the ear was unmistakably her mother's. Horrified, Seung-jan froze, the realization hitting her like a tidal wave. Thinking about the meat she had just swallowed, she gagged and ran to vomit. Choi's mask of civility dropped. "You think I don't know what you've been up to today? And do you know why your mother had to die? Because she helped you lie to me." Terrified, Seung-jan tried to back away but missed her chance to escape. Choi cornered her in the kitchen. She picked up a carving knife, trying to threaten him. "Stay back." Choi wasn't bluffing. He swung a chair and knocked her to the ground. But killing her outright would have been too merciful. After venting his rage, he dragged her unconscious body to the basement, ready for the next phase of his twisted revenge. The next day, Choi In-beom went to work as usual. The nurses, worried about his condition, were harshly scolded by him. Not long after, a stunning woman arrived at the clinic, requesting a breast augmentation. As she explained her wishes, she boldly took off her top, asking Choi to examine her. Without hesitation, Choi began to touch and comment on her figure.
혹시 저한테 사적인 감정 같은 거 느끼세요?
어쩌면
이러면 부인한테 미안하지 않을까?
전혀.
On the operating table, he administered anesthesia and began the procedure. However, midway through, a nurse called the head nurse in a panic, saying, "Something's wrong, Dr. Choi is scribbling all over the patient's body." The head nurse rushed in and demanded, "What are you doing? Have you gone mad?" Unfazed, Choi replied coldly, "I'm performing surgery." Realizing the danger, the head nurse hurried to the changing room, packing her things and calling the police. She whispered urgently, "The doctor here has lost his mind. If you don't come quickly, he'll kill the patient." But she didn't notice Choi sneaking up behind her. Suddenly, Choi bludgeoned her to death with a sculpture. Back in the operating room, the other nurse asked, "Is the head nurse okay?" Choi calmly lied. "I've reassured her. Everything's fine, let's continue." Trusting him, the nurse stayed. However, as the surgery progressed, her unease grew. The patient's chest was bleeding profusely, and time was running out. The anesthesia would soon wear off. Despite this, Choi seemed unfazed, repeatedly inserting and removing implants, muttering that none of them fit. Horrified by his behavior, the nurse tried to leave, but before she could, Choi brutally slit her throat. The final nurse, hearing a loud noise from the operating room, cautiously went to check. Choi cracked the door open and calmly told her, "Don't interrupt unless it's urgent." Half believing him, the nurse left. Meanwhile, the patient's body began to convulse violently due to excessive blood loss. Moments later, she lay still, dead on the operating table. Before her shift ended, the sole surviving nurse brought a tray of drinks to the operating room. As she stepped in, a wave of metallic blood stench hit her. The floor was soaked in blood, and two bodies lay covered. Horrified, she turned to leave but froze as Choi In-beom appeared in the doorway, startling her. "Why are you still here?" he asked coldly. "Do you know what's happened here? I wasn't planning to kill you, but you shouldn't have come in." Choi lunged at her, hands reaching for her throat. In a desperate move, the nurse grabbed a pair of scissors from the floor and stabbed him in the arm. Choi yelped in pain and loosened his grip, allowing the nurse to break free. She dashed into the changing room and locked the door. Inside, she discovered the head nurse's lifeless body. Choi, undeterred, pursued her and began kicking the door. Fortunately, though ruthless, Choi lacked physical strength. By the time he finally forced the door open, the nurse had armed herself with a fire extinguisher. With all her strength, she smashed it against Choi's head and bolted out of the hospital. Choi stumbled after her but soon collapsed at the entrance, his vision spinning and body weak. Meanwhile, at the gym, Coach Jean learned from the receptionist that a strange man had been asking about him earlier that morning. Thinking back to the man he encountered in the elevator, Coach Jean realized it might have been Soon-jong's husband. He quickly searched for Choi In-beom's clinic online, confirming his suspicion. Did Soon-jong tell him about me? Coach Jean tried calling Soon-jong repeatedly, but her phone never connected. Summoning all his courage, Coach Jean went to Soon-jong's house. There, he discovered bloodstains on the floor leading to the basement door. When he opened the door, he was horrified to find Soon-jong tied to a chair. A syringe was lodged in her neck, and her blood was being used to nourish flowers in a vase. Heartbroken, Coach Jean cursed Choi In-beom, calling him a monster. Meanwhile, the police, responding to the nurse's call, arrived at the clinic, only to find Choi had already fled. Hiding near his home, Choi saw the officers searching the premises and realized he couldn't return. Soon-jong was hospitalized, with Coach Jean staying by her side. Though safe for the moment, Soon-jong was terrified knowing Choi was still on the loose. "Don't worry," Coach Jean reassured her. "I'm here. Trust the police, they'll catch that psycho soon." But even heroes need a break. When Coach Jean stepped out for a few minutes to use the bathroom, disaster struck. Choi In-beom, lurking nearby, slipped into the hospital room and added something to Soon-jong's fore drip. When Coach Jean returned, he immediately noticed something was wrong. Soon-jong was unable to move or speak, her eyes pleading desperately to warn him. Before he could process her silent plea, Choi emerged from the shadows and injected him with a syringe. The drug took effect instantly. Coach Jean staggered a few steps before collapsing, his legs giving out. Fuming, Choi kicked Coach Jean in the face repeatedly until his strength gave out.
힘을 못 쓰겠으면 지주진님을 살려달라는 뭐든지 해보란 말이야.
Turning to Soon-jong, Choi said, "There's no saving me now. This is all your fault. If you hadn't betrayed me, none of this would have happened." He then pulled out a scalpel. "I'll make you even more beautiful." Soon-jong's eyes widened in terror as the blade cut a deep gash across her face. Before long, Soon-jong, clutching her mutilated face, stumbled out of the hospital room. Patients in the hallway froze at the sight of her, her bloodied face so horrifying it sent them running in terror. Soon-jong collapsed on the ground, her screams echoing through the ward. Other patients peeked from a distance but dared not approach, as her grotesque appearance was more terrifying than any ghost. Whether she survived remains uncertain, but to her, being disfigured might have been a fate worse than death. As for Coach Jean, his chances of survival seemed slim. In the movie's chilling finale, Choi In-beom, desperate to evade capture, murdered an innocent homeless man. Using the man's ID, he surgically altered his face to assume his identity, slipping into a new life. And so, the story ends. If you enjoyed this tale, check out the original film and don't forget to like the video. My friends,